everyone, and welcome to another episode of Reap the Spoils. I'm Mark Sullivan.
I'm Delilah Lugo.
And I'm Jason Kwasnicki.
Reap the Spoils. It's a monthly spoiler cast, monthly-ish. Every month we come to you with a new episode. We pick a thing to either play or experience. You know, it's
And that
typically
thing is a video game.
Typically, it is a video game. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a film or television adaptation of a video game. It always relates to video games, I'll say.
Yeah.
Or at least so far. Who knows? Maybe one day Jason will want to do a spoiler cast on Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, currently in American movie theaters.
What are you advertising for Warner Brothers now? Are we Warner Brothers shills? Are we getting sponsorship on the back end?
Zaslav really needed the money, or really needs the marketing, so he came to the one place he could reap the spoils.
Technically, Mad Max did become a game, so
that's true.
It
would
still be related.
Apparently a good one. I still need to play
I enjoyed it.
Mad Max.
Yeah. I mean, that game got overshadowed by coming out on the same day as a vastly more anticipated video game. But anyway,
this potential future episode. But let's continue.
Oh snap!
Anyway, reap the spoils. This month we're talking about a video game. We played the video game. We're here to spoil it. So if you have not played this video game, I very much suggest that you pause the episode, you go play the video game, and then you come back and listen to us spoil the whole thing. We're talking about the story, talking about the gameplay, and whatever else comes with all that. Delilah, what game are we talking about today?
Stellar Blade.
Ooh. Put a little panache on that.
Yeah, I tried to say it like the font is written.
Tried to say it like it's a Devil May Cry game. where they have the I don't even know if it's Trish, just somebody saying Devil May Cry, Stellar Blade.
It's very, very serious, very posh, as if you're reading, Shakespeare, to be or not to be.
To play Stellar Blade or to not play Stellar Blade? That is the question. Some information on Stellar Blade. It was directed by, I'm gonna butcher this name, I'm so sorry, Kim Hyung-tae, I think.
Sounds good.
A actually surprisingly storied Korean developer. Developed by the studio that I believe he heads up, called Shift Up. Whose only other big claim to fame is a mobile game called Nikke Goddess of Victory, which will come up again for reasons that, if you've ever seen Nikke, will become obvious. And was also assisted development from PlayStation Studios XDev. This game was revealed in 2019 as Project Eve, and finally got a release on April 26th, 2024 for the PlayStation 5. Only the
history lesson. Because I did not know that this was a Korean studio.
Yeah. Shift Up is a Korean studio. That's why I feel like this game, I guess maybe if you know anything about just Korean fashion especially, it's just overbearingly Korean.
Also, the
we'll
music.
talk about the fashion.
What were you gonna say, Delilah?
Also, the music. I get my hair trimmed by Koreans and Koreans only, and it was basically music that I hear in the salon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
oh my god! When you went to the salon, were you just your fingers twitching? Oh my god! Dodge, yes. Oh, L1 block, yes.
Delilah was like, "Man, my outfit is not nearly revealing enough for this place."
The ladies doing her nails are like, Jesus Christ, this fucking lady.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, Stellar Blade. If you haven't played it yet, the last warning for spoilers. I highly suggest you pause the episode, go play Stellar Blade, and then come back and listen to us spoil it and talk about it, because we are going to talk about it. We are going to spoil it. So, you guys ready to start?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Okay, so I mean, we could just start with what was everyone's first ending, because there were 3. Jason, did you look at all of them, or did you just do the one that you did?
I looked at the one that I did, but it ends slightly different. But I know what happens in the third ending.
Yeah, and
yeah,
frankly, you got the best one, so it's it's
Yeah.
not too much of a problem if you didn't see the others. But I guess let's break them down one at a time, starting with what I guess would be the worst ending, which sucks because it was probably the cooler boss fight.
Hmm.
Well, I guess let's because there's some preamble I guess we kind of have to do before we get into the endings because these endings do a lot of like revelations. So
Hmm.
I guess like going into this all, let's talk about Adam and that whole twist. Did you guys see that coming? That he's the original Natiba?
I saw a twist happening where he wasn't being honest from like immediately almost. I did not see that he was the elder Natiba.
Yeah, right. The elder Natiba. I was saying. I mean, I guess that technically is the first Natiba, but yeah, he's the elder Natiba. Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes down to the entire game throws a lot of like intrigue and um curiosity toward Oracle and what
Yeah.
Oracle's whole role is and if he's secretly a malicious being or if he really does want to help the people of Zion. So like I feel like that was kind of an intended diversion and like that still goes somewhere. We find out that he is still an Alpha Natiba, but he's not the elder, he's not the important one. He's not the obvious thing we all obviously thought he was,
Hmm.
even if he came pretty close.
Right.
Jason, did
And
you
you
see
guys can
the Adam?
testify that as I was playing, yeah, you guys can testify as I was playing, I put in the chat because I called, like, with all the propaganda and intrigue, like Delilah was talking about the intrigue
Yeah,
going on with Orcal. I was like, this has to be red herring because this is too
it's too obvious.
openly um foreshadowed. It's too obvious. Yeah. And I knew I didn't specifically predict Adam being it, but I knew, I mean, it's on the nose. It's Adam and Eve. So obviously
Yeah,
he's going to play
Hmm.
some major role in the way that the plot resolves. I
yeah,
just like by the time you get to the burning of Zion, it's clear that something's up with him. It's just not
Yeah.
clear if he's working for or in this case he actually is something.
Even after finding out that Adam is the elder Natiba, I still wasn't sure about his motives. Like, I have theories of his motives, but it wasn't very clear throughout the game.
I mean, yeah. Um, this
Like why Eve? It's mentioned
right.
briefly in his dialogue at the end, but it's never like pointed out or explained beforehand.
I guess like she was just the one to come the furthest or the most advanced
Well,
Andro
yeah,
Ados.
he mentions like her fiber optic or advanced fiber optics or something skin,
Well,
something about the way she's built. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of like the my overall opinion of this game, or story wise at least, is that there's a lot of plot, but like not much character and setting weaving it between. I enjoyed the plot
100%
for
agreed.
what it is, but like,
there's so there's a
and I
couple
didn't necessarily
things.
need there to be more, but
There's a couple things here. One, like, yeah, why Eve, and that all kind of ties into why is the Eve, what is the Eve protocol? Like, it's a protocol specifically named for like with her name, but seemingly the Eve protocol is just destroying the Natibas, and they've been trying to do that for how who knows how long. So like, was that
and
like the name of the
apparently it's kind
protocol?
of like a cycle where others have, but when they learn too much, they get nixed by Mother Sphere.
But see, like, I don't even know. We don't even know like the logistics of that. And like Raven is like kind of, I guess, the closest example because she actually kind of figures out and throughout the game reveal. By the way, like it's so confusing how the information on what's really going on in this game is doled out, because
Yeah.
like it's supposed to be like this big reveal that all your characters and all the survivors on Zion that you think are human aren't human. It's like, well, yeah, have you seen Enya? Like
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious.
Like
But
almost
I think
all
the
of them.
implication is that they don't know they don't understand
Yeah,
that they're not human.
Yes.
Yeah.
right. But like that's another kind of issue that we'll get into later is the performances, but I don't want to delve into that right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the Eve protocol, I guess it's like that was just like a thing, like that was the name, and then the fact that Eve like drops in and her name is Eve, like that's kind of the signal that okay, this is going to be coming to a conclusion soon. She is the one. Like I maybe that's the reason Adam saves her, is he recognizes that uh Eve is the one to be the end all be all of this war, and he steps in because that's his role in the story. Um but it's still just like, and then throughout the game, like this trickle down of information of um like it's at the start you think everyone's human and they just have hypercells replaced in their hearts and that lets them live forever or whatever. Okay, sure. And then like it trickles down further, eventually finding out that androidos is like a different thing, and then you find out okay, everyone else is androidos, and that just means that they're androids, and all the actual humans are the nativas. Oh no, who could have seen that one coming? It's just like the dole out of information throughout this game just leads to a very messy narrative experience, to the point where I feel like I thought I missed things my first run, and then the second run I'm like, oh no, I didn't really miss things, I just took them for granted when they were said, because yeah, of course, like they're going with that twist, that it just, it's the most
Yeah.
obvious thing, right? Like it's so obvious that I almost thought it wasn't the case, and it kind of was.
Right.
um Adam, the fact that Adam was the Elder Nativa did throw me for a loop. And yeah, his motivations don't really make much sense. Or at the very least, it doesn't make much sense that we went through everything we did just to go into his lair and then do the whole we're gonna combine or not combine into the ultimate being, the ultimate species, the coalescence of both,
Yeah.
so that they can exist in perfect harmony. It's just like, why couldn't we have done that at the very beginning? Why did
Yeah.
we have to go through all this other stuff? Like
Right.
the
Like if he's the elder Natiba and can leave the place at will, why do we need the four cores to open the door to get to? Yeah, like that. Yeah.
it doesn't it to give you something to do. Like that's
Right.
Right.
basically the answer.
Right. Which is why I put an asterisk where I said like like story wise, this game is basically just a bunch of plot with no real character or setting,
Yeah.
competently weaving it between. And ultimately, I'm fine with that because it's just a plot there for the game to move ahead. And I wasn't really too focused on the story, even though I found the world kind of interesting and the
Yeah.
and like the things they were doing in it and the history of it, even though they really didn't do much. And it's kind of like with Adam's motivations at the end. The motivation is that they're trying to do a theme. So Adam wants to
Mm.
combine with Eve and forego the sins of both races, ancestors, and forge a new destiny. That's the theme. So that's his motivation because he knows the theme of the story.
Yeah.
I it's all
And
very
honestly, I don't mind
confusing.
that in the context of this game, like because I enjoyed the game. So
Yeah, like everything that I'm gonna criticize at the end of the day, like the combat was the strong point for me in the
Oh,
music
okay.
and the skins. But
Or
I feel like
the lack thereof, or never mind, actually. Go
yeah,
ahead.
lack thereof skin or too much skin,
Or too much,
however you
yeah,
want.
yeah.
Yeah.
I that joke worked in my head, but saying it out loud and realized, oh, that doesn't make any sense, Mark. Come on. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I feel like it had interesting ideas that were weaved together very poorly and very confusing. And I think that the
yes,
theories that I have about the game are more interesting than the game. And that's not hyping me up. That's like a disservice to the storytelling and the performances in the game. Like I think that if I had to justify Adam's behavior, because if he was creating this being for peace, why didn't he just destroy Mother Sphere since he's like the ultimate being? Which I know he created her, but also why did you create her and not want to destroy her? Raven wanted to. Raven would have joined with Adam and destroyed Mother Sphere. Adam wasn't down for that. He wanted someone that just wanted to like exist as the perfect being alongside Mother Spear. And then it's like, did you do this because you're trying to have a rival? Was she like your just perpetual rival that you can constantly like seek knowledge and find an even more perfect specimen than what you became with Eve?
I think
Like,
that's the intent. Because of that line where he says, "I had, I was waiting for you, the perfect." I'm paraphrasing, but he says like the perfect specimen. You have the right kind of build with your
It's got the
core and your
right
skin.
body, if you know what I'm
Yes, yeah,
saying.
exactly. But
Ravens was better, but whatever.
but but the other
Oh,
evidence, I actually agree that both Raven and Taki were better equipped than Eve, but we'll get to that later.
wow.
Um,
Wow.
but
No body shaming here. I
but
promise.
in addition to that one line he says at the end when he's like explaining somewhat to some degree in a sentence why it's her, throughout the game, obviously the last city of mankind is called Zion, and there are multiple pickups notes you can find talking about the Matrix going to the Matrix. So obviously, and if you've seen spoilers, light spoilers for the Matrix, but it's revealed that it's a cycle of conflict, which is which kind of contributed to why some of this is a bit predictable because you can see the influences clear there. So the idea of like in the Matrix, the one merging with the source, it and ultimately through this cycle of violence, it perpetuates both humanity and machine kind. I kind of thought that was. I'm kind of projecting what I think the authors are thinking here,
Exactly.
which is what you were just saying, Delilah. It's more interesting, but ultimately, like the plot was entertaining enough, if even as holy as it is, to carry me along through really fun gameplay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah. It's like it's fine, it's serviceable until you start thinking about it and you realize, wow, everything we did in this game just really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it can't
Which is
even.
true of a lot of action movies, yeah.
I mean, yeah, maybe, but like I don't know. It's a lot of just like MacGuffin chasing. It's a lot of uh, just needing these different things for no apparent reason, especially, and you realize that once you get to the end, like again, Adam at any point, I guess it was to kind of let her get to the truth on her own and be a little more complicit with how things could end, and come to that decision rather than just meet her, tell her everything up front, and then be like, so you want to become the perfect being. I guess
Right.
he wanted to build some sort of rapport so she'd be more okay with it, but like that's just a like jumping through hoops to justify it in my head, it's not
And I
it
want to be clear, I'm
ultimately
not trying
doesn't
to
make much
shield
sense.
I'm not trying to make an excuse to shield the story from critique. It absolutely deserves to be critiqued. I'm just giving like my off the cuff feelings on it where like yes, there are those critiques, but at the same time the game itself was sufficient where and the plot itself as wholly I keep using the word holy, as full of holes as it might be,
I
I
mean,
still enjoyed it as
the characters are named Adam
Adam
and
and
Eve,
Eve, yeah.
so holy
But I
is
mean,
not necessarily out of the question.
to what you're saying about like you specifically said characters making the choices, I think that's the real failing of the story is just a almost complete with few bits of dialogue, a complete lack of character to actually like
we'll
carry and frame the story. Yeah,
we'll get into that, but I guess let's go into the endings now that we've kind of set the stage here.
because just
um
as another as a quick add on to that, if you had a character whose like arc was clearly set up to go along with that plot, the plot could be as it is, and it would probably come off to you as more satisfying if it furthered that character's development, if you will. I think
right, and at the end of the day, like Eve is our I guess we could talk a little bit about Eve before we get into the endings. Jason's already diverting me onto other things, for
sorry,
shame.
sorry.
No, it's okay. Eve as a lead character just doesn't have a personality. She really just does not. Her goal and her ambition is just is what all of the angels, they call them, what all their goals are is to just destroy the Nativas. And she comes down and that's what her goal is. And she doesn't really show any personality. Even out the gate, like her and Taki's relationship, it's just not believable, and I think it largely comes down to the performances. I meant to do a playthrough in Korean just to
Yeah.
see if the Korean actors did a better job at conveying emotion than the English ones. I completely forgot to switch the language at any point for whatever reason. Um, but man, those English voice actors just did like I don't it has to be a direction issue because
It's not just the voice actors, it's also the writing, because there are some very
well
clear moments that stand out of potential characterization that ultimately doesn't go anywhere.
Well, that's what I'm saying is there were moments where the emotion could have carried through if the performances were just better. And I can't even put that on the actors. It's got to be a directing issue because all of them, all the performances from every character in this game are just as bland.
Hmm.
Like
I like Raven a little bit. I thought hers were sufficient.
Yeah, that's
Raven
a
was
fair point. That's a fair
she was
point.
probably the best, but I still felt her performance was a little flat. I would
Mhm,
say that about literally every character in this game.
mhm,
They all just came across flat. Actually, I put Raven and Lily at the top of the heap as like the best performances in the game, but they still were not great.
mhm.
Um, and
Because the writing didn't really hone in on any specific
yeah,
personality.
and
Yeah.
not to make excuses for Shift Up, this is their first like triple A game. Nikkei Goddess of Victory, the game that I brought up, it's a mobile gotcha game centered around big titty waifus. Like
Yeah.
that is that game. That is their only real big claim to fame before this, and it's a mobile gotcha game. I don't necessarily fault them for not having the best writing staff. Uh that being said, if there is a sequel to this game or whatever their next like AAA bigger budget like, console game is, because I liked this game a lot. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, I really enjoyed Stellar Blade. But
Yeah, we're
man,
all
they
ripping
they
into
need
the
better
story
writers.
here. Yeah, we're all
Yeah,
ripping into the story here, but as I've already said, I don't. I had to kind of put up that I'm not defending the story, simply saying that
yeah,
I enjoyed the game in spite of it. Yeah.
yeah. But like, yeah, like really, what I'm getting at is just that they're not well equipped for writing, I would say, and if they had a better writing staff, if they had better writers on this game, it could have been something really really good, really really special. But they don't have that, and they've never had a need for that. Nikkei does have a story. I played a little bit of it. I can't keep playing that game. I just cannot get into it. um
Mm.
but like there is a story to that, and there's lots of dialogue, lots of characters talking to one another, sharing their feelings and emotions and whatnot, but at least as far as I played. But it's like it's still very basic in presentation and very basic like storytelling. It doesn't get very complex, and this was an aim to be complex but without the writing to back it up.
And
Yeah.
that's in addition to the characters, I think tonally there's that problem where the game does set up a serious tone. So you're expecting kind of a serious exploration of these ideas in this setting. When I think this game would have been much better served with a much not carefree, more lighthearted tone, so that you as the audience didn't try to take it as seriously
Mm.
and took it more as
Like
what it
Bayonetta.
is. Yes, yes.
Mm. Yeah.
Then Eve really would have had to have a personality because
Yes, yes. Obviously, the two better characters and a different tone go hand in hand. I think the
Mhm.
plot they have here, you can obviously patch up the holes. The plot is by far the best part, in my opinion, of the writing. So you beef up those characters, get a lighter tone going, make it a little more fun. You don't notice those holes because you're not taking it as seriously because it's presented as very dark and
I
serious.
mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
We're a spoiler cast. We probably still would notice those holes. We just might not care as much about them because
Yeah,
there'd be
that's what
other
I'm
things
saying.
to. Yeah, right,
That's
right.
yeah, yeah.
Other things
Um,
to distract us.
well, there already kind of are, but
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
Especially considering, and we'll talk more about it later, the clear inspirations from Nier,
well,
which
it,
which
you know,
manages which manages to strike a very unique balance between being serious and absurdism.
Yeah.
This just can't do. So
yeah,
you can just it just has to be silly and understand that it's a game and it's being silly. but still
The
be able to kind of poke at some of those cool sci-fi ideas.
the funny thing, we're gonna come back to Nier later, but the funny thing about like there was that interview that IGN conducted with Yoko Taro and Kim Hyung Tae. Um because of all the similarities and like pre-release, all the similarities people were making between this and Nier Automata. So there was an interview with the two of them together, and they were both very fond of each other's work. It's very obvious that this game is inspired by Nier Automata, but
Yeah.
a another inspiration that they both brought up, which is near and dear to my heart and makes a lot of sense, is Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Mm.
And I find it very funny with this game having some Evangelion inspirations, because the thing that it most notably takes from Evangelion that I can tell is using very Christian and biblical like
Zion, yeah.
terminology or symbols, and just doing them because they're cool, not for any like deeper meaning. Although I guess this game
Right.
kind of tries to do that, and Evangelion kind of accidentally stumbles into that too. But it's very funny to me that
Well, I mean, I
Evangelion
mentioned the
is
Matrix. I mentioned the Matrix earlier. Like, the
yeah.
Matrix didn't come up with the name Zion. The Matrix does the same exact thing with the Christian imagery. But
No,
then
I
again,
know.
The Matrix was also heavily inspired by anime of the time, which would have included, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
But the thing I find just funny about it is like it has all these Christian terms, this Christian symbology and whatnot, but I don't think it does anything really meaningful with it at the end of the day. So at least not from my viewpoint. This plot is just very sloppy in general.
yeah.
Nothing meaningful. It's just like, okay, Mother Sphere injected memory, controlled the memories of the androids and had them worship her.
Yeah,
That
and that's
that was
another
really it.
that's another thing is like they don't really delve into the whole idea of AI and how Mother Sphere was built, and she quickly decided that these two species couldn't coexist. Andro Ados, Earth belongs to Andro Ados, and that's how that whole conflict started. She just on a dime just changed, which like I think is very topical today, especially just with the evolution of AI and a lot of the fear mongering surrounding it. A lot of it I feel is justified. But like it goes with that, but it doesn't really delve into any of that. It kind of uses it as a plot
I
point and then
find
it
it
moves on from it.
I find it weird that I'm about to say this. It kind of does if you're reading the notes that you pick up, which I picked up a lot of notes and
Yeah,
did actually read
wow.
them just because I've
Good
well,
job.
a lot
Listen
of
to
these
this guy.
a lot of these sci-fi concepts I find very interesting, like the idea of humans forcefully evolving themselves, kind of the it's not Jurassic Park literally, but the idea of man becoming God and playing with things they shouldn't play with, their
Yeah.
own genetics. Um, that plus the idea of a machine becoming, all that stuff is very interesting ideas. Like you said, Mark, they don't really like pull it together cohesively within the narrative as it's told in cutscenes. But
And I'm a big proponent for having supplemental material and collectibles and stuff, but when you're doing that for something that is a key component of the main plot, like the plot kickoff, basically like everything that preceded the story that we're experiencing all kind of happened because Raphael Marx, Adam, decided to build this advanced AI, and it turned on him, and it never is really explored as to why or how that happened. It just kind of did.
Ag-
And they don't go into like the complications or concerns with that. They don't take that theme and further it in any way. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Delara.
again, I extrapolated from other forms of media like Nier Automata and others just to touch on it, like just questioning humanity and then wanting that to be advanced. And I extrapolated that, just theorized. It wasn't said, I don't think, in a note or anything, but
Mhm.
that's the sense that I got, was that she was questioning what humanity is, and then that kind of made her want to prioritize the advanced form of humanity, which was the androids. But I could be wrong. That's just a theory. The game didn't explain that.
at
Yeah,
the end of
right.
the day, like I said before, I think it's really just they were trying to bend all these concepts to fit into this thematic element that really only plays out in the quote right ending. Basically, all this shit happened in the past, and they're going to choose to forego it and combine and become something stronger going into the future.
Mm.
Yeah.
There it
Oh,
is.
okay. Let's get into these endings because we haven't done that yet. So first of all, I feel like the game, like I guess at the end of the day, it's like somewhat explicit and somewhat obvious when you find out he was the first Naytiba, but the game does not come out and tell you, like in that cutscene, that Adam is Raphael Marx. Um, like there's no big revelation with Eve realizing that, or him explicitly saying that, or even Lily realizing that. Really, the way that I got
You only get
confirmation of
through the
that.
notes.
Yeah, well, not even through I guess kind of through the notes, but like how they have like the character bios.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if you go into Adams after you beat the game, it tells you that he's Raphael Marx, and I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense, but I find it really surprising that the game did nothing with that revelation.
Yeah.
Right.
But
And
anyway,
and
yeah.
that goes back to the character stuff that we'll get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're presented with a choice. Like as we've already talked about what Adam wanted to do. He wants to combine with Eve, the ultimate Andrew Ados versus combining with the Elder Naytiba to become one unified species, and that will somehow save the planet.
Stop the
um
war.
or yeah, it'll at least like unify them, and well, does it stop the war? Because we'll get to that in a moment.
To be fair, he does say it won't happen immediately, but eventually.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm.
Okay, good. Yeah, good fail-safe comment there, Adam. Um, but anyway, so I guess let's start with the choice where Eve refuses Adam. Because I think this was that's not the choice to me that makes the most sense, but it does lead to the better boss fight of the two. Fighting against Adam, fighting against the Elder Naytiba, and ultimately killing him, and even Lily, leave the hive. Mother Sphere as a manifesting or projecting as a little Andro Ados girl says, "Oh, congratulations, thank you for ending the war, Andro Ados forever." Um, and then you go up to the colony, and it's just kind of this bleak ending of a Lily almost seeming like disappointed and scared about like returning to their quote unquote home. Jason, I know you didn't see this ending, right? But
I saw like bits and pieces of it. Like I saw the boss fight, and so
okay,
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
okay. I mean, Delilah, I know you saw it. How did you feel about this ending?
I actually like this ending more because I
Okay.
feel like it fits Eve's character more, even though her character isn't. We already talked about that, but
Yeah.
Right, she's very about her mission. Yeah.
yeah, she's very about a mission. I feel like Adam just kind of like giving her the 1-2 switch and revealing that he's the Elder Naytiba in the end and having all this information pushed on her should automatically make someone be like, nah, F you. Like, you lied. You could have told me this from the beginning. Like, I spent all this time, sacrificed all these people, all to come to this. And like, yeah, sure, she wants like peace, but I feel like more than anything, she wants the truth. And I feel like this just gives her the opportunity to find out the motives that aren't very clear. Whereas the canon ending, which we'll talk about, it's just like, oh, everyone's happy. She's like this god and woohoo, peace. And it just, I don't know, it seems hokey to me. I don't know.
And to your point, Delilah, to add to it, it's almost the more poignant of the two endings. Ironically, even though
Yeah.
like the first one is like this existential, we're creating a new race and a new future. Uh, by picking to kill him, you're just perpetuating the cycle, which is tragic.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, because you're just perpetuating this endless cycle of violence between Mother Sphere and the Natiba. So like, there's
So
almost more poignancy to that.
what I'll say, what I think is like that, because of the reason you just laid out, that makes for a good first ending, right? Like that, if anything, that should be the one you see the first time you beat the game. But obviously they give you the choice. It's not like they force you into one ending over the other. But from a thematic standpoint, that one does make the most sense as an initial ending to view. When it comes to her goal, her mission, I think she does say when you make the other choice, which I guess we can move on to now.
Yeah.
The first ending we talked about was the return to the colony ending. This is now we're talking about the cost of lost memories ending. In her little speech after you say to take Adam's hand, like she says, like my mission. She says something along the lines of like, my mission is to destroy the Naytibas. Technically, this would do it. Like
Yes.
she's basically sitting there like, on a technicality,
She's
this
rationalizing,
will.
yeah.
Yeah, she's rationalizing it. And I guess the question is she right in that assertion? Is she right to view it that way by becoming one with the Elder Naytiba and combining both beings, both species into one single existence? Does she get rid of both, or does she just make this hodgepodge of both?
Technically, man, you can rationalize some horrifying shit with science.
That's true. That's true.
Exactly.
As
I don't
Ian
know.
Malcolm once said, "You son of a bitch, you did it."
Yep.
At some point, Eve seemed like she felt terrible that the humans were like shoved underground and had to turn into Nightibas just to have a chance against the Andros Eidos in the war. And like when she went there, she was like, I feel this warmth. And she like heard the different stories, like reading the different notes that were down in the underground. And I would feel like at that point, you would feel bad, like with that revelation that that's what the humans had to succumb to in order to survive. So yeah, although she ultimately completed her mission, which was to destroy the Naytibas, I feel like her having that reaction and recognizing the warmth of humans in the underground kind of like would go against that vibe that she was feeling. It's kind of fucked up.
And I think what you're pointing out is exactly, and we'll get more into it when we talk about characters. I think what you're pointing out is exactly the arc they were going for. They just failed miserably at portraying it through the writing and performance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it also like
Go ahead, Mark.
at least my first playthrough, like there was some confusion about, again, like because they try to make you think that the survivors in Zion are all human, and then later you find out they're Andro Ados. But like the whole thing with Zion and getting the hypercells is getting those to restore Zion and keep the people that are in stasis down there living. And then as you progress through the game and go to what are they called, um Altesse Loire and or
Yeah.
Lavoir and Abyss Lavoir, and you kind of find out that those were,
A lot of names. I don't blame you
well,
for forgetting. Yeah.
yeah, but the point is like that they were like safe havens for the actual remaining humans, where they went there and evolved into the Naytibas in order to fight back. So I was actually wondering at one point,
Right. There were
like,
science labs. Yeah.
yeah, well, I was wondering at one point, at some point, like, well, if Oracle is an Alpha Naytiba and all those people are in stasis underneath the underneath Zion, like, are those actually humans, or are those Androidos? And is restoring Zion to keep them alive and healthy and whatever. Is that to, again, is it to benefit Androidos, or is it to benefit humanity more? And we never really get an answer to that question
Right.
either.
Is Oracle's hangout like an out? Yeah. Is Oracle's hangout like an Altis Lavoir, but it's storage space for original humans? Yeah.
Yeah, like Eve combining with Adam and to become this ultimate being, and then one of the endings we're yet to get to, like restoring Zion to keep all those people alive. Well, who exactly is being kept alive? That's just not really explained. And to me, it would make more sense that it's humans, but it kind of seems like it's Andro Ados more, and I don't know that that makes as much sense.
Yeah.
Again, lots of things that are introduced in this plot that when you, as you play further and start thinking, it just doesn't really make sense. Sorry, go ahead,
Yeah.
Delilah.
No, again, like my making sense of it is just my brain and not actually the game telling me. I thought it was that humans weren't able to survive in their form, and so they started to create cybernetics for the humans so that they don't have to deal with disease and not being able to like that's why like they can swim underwater without losing breath and blah blah blah. And then when Adam created Mother Sphere, she advanced humans into androids, and so the humans that were just cybernetics really like didn't stand a chance for survival. And then I don't know, it's I'll try to make sense of it, but basically I think the humans with the cybernetics were like the original humans, and
But
so they're pretty much died out. The people in Zion were androids. They were
well,
a bit more advanced, right?
to be clear, I'm talking about the ones that were all like in stasis underground. Like
Right.
the whole thing with humans having like technology and like advancements in their bodies and stuff. That's another thing. I don't know if that is real because
Mhm.
you find out like what midway through the game that Mother Sphere is lying to you, and when you go to the Hall of
Mhm.
Records in the first level, that's where you get the whole spiel about learning like, oh, there were advancements in technology. Humans replaced their hearts with hypercells in order to keep themselves living and sustainable for longer or whatever. They don't have to
To
eat or do anything, and it's like okay, but like once you find out but then you right after all that whole thing, you find out that the data in the Hall of Records doesn't go too far back. All of it was erased.
Mhm.
And that
Yeah.
was Mother Sphere trying to remove the truth. She was trying to make all the Andro Ados think that Andro Ados are humans and that the
Right.
planet belongs to them. And she doesn't want them to find out what Nativas are. So there's just this like layer of mystery over a lot of things that were told early in the game and then and then are never cleared up after the later game revelations of like of the humans actually being Andrew Ados, or the humans you think are humans are actually Andrew Ados, and the Nativas are the real humans. They clarify and reveal that, but they don't clean anything else up.
Yeah, that's
to be
true.
And
clear about the language the game uses, though, is that they refer to the people. We'll just use the word people in storage.
okay,
They don't refer to them as well. They say memories and
Yeah.
storage. So I think the idea could be that maybe these are real human memories. Maybe there's android memories.
mm,
The point is just that they're people's memories, and I think this is their attempt at being thematically relevant. That I don't know, it's the memories of the lives that's important. I don't know.
yeah, I don't
Um,
know.
Right.
but they never clearly refer to them as any one thing other than memories.
Yeah.
Okay, I might have missed, or I might be misremembering that because I thought they did refer to them as humans in stasis, but
But again, because the people talking are unreliable,
yeah.
like
Like you don't know what's true and what's not, and the game doesn't make
right,
an effort to
yeah, they could think that
explain
it's
that.
human in there, but it's actually just androids. But the memories carried on because we'll talk about Enya, who was a human. Were Yeah, wasn't she originally a human with android implants?
I mean,
And then
we don't necessarily know. Like,
I mean,
she
yeah, it
there
is
was a
confusing.
period
I'm not
there.
disputing that. Yeah,
Yeah, because there was a period of time where Andro Ados and humans like did try to live in harmony, and it's possible that Enya was an Andro Ados at that time before Mother Sphere
but it's
said
also possible she was a human.
Right.
but yeah, but I think it's more likely she was an Andro Ados. It's just that
I mean,
the
we know
game
she's a
doesn't try
human
to
because
clarify that.
she has some best-selling albums some of you younger listeners might not remember from the 90s, but my mom listened to that shit all the time when I was a kid. I mean,
Wait, listen
I
to
like it
what?
to be fair, Enya.
Oh, I see the joke now. Okay. God damn it.
Oh my god,
Oh my
you just caught up to that?
Oh my god.
Did you
Yeah, I
play this
did.
entire game and not get that?
I Anyway. Let's go back to the endings. So we talked about Return to the Colony. Let's talk about the Cost of Lost Memories, which is the um I guess the other bad ending, I guess we could put it. This is the first one where Eve and Adam combine. Mother Sphere sends a signal to the mech that Lily is piloting, and it basically goes berserk, tries to kill Eve, and it results in Lily dying, and then Mother Sphere sending down an army of other Andro Eidos to kill Eve, and it's kind of left intentionally vague as to what the outcome of that is, which I actually really like. Um, but yeah, how did you guys feel about this one?
Yeah, again, at that point, it's like, okay, we became this human, this like advanced human, and now like our homie's dead. So what are you gonna do? You're just gonna be happy and be a god in Zion, or like, you know what I mean? It all seems very dark to me.
Yeah.
Even though it's the good ending where she doesn't die is meant to be more light. I feel like they're both the same, except one there's actual stakes, whereas the other one it's like, are we really happy?
Yeah. And I guess that goes into the making new memories ending, which is this, but if you max out Lily's affinity ahead of going to Spire 4, you wind up going to a super secret extra level. You go to, what is it? Eidos 9, and Lily wants to retrieve something from her old hideout. I guess let's talk about Lily a little bit as kind of a tertiary character. I put her up there with Raven as like top of the pack with as far as performances go, because she at least had a good range of, her character expressed fear, expressed joy, expressed like a bunch of different emotions, and they actually kind of came
not just
through.
stoic. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And she seemed to actually have some semblance of a personality, unlike most of the rest of the cast.
Yeah.
This whole timeline is just a little muddled to me. So
Yes, yeah, I know exactly what you're gonna say. Yeah.
you find her at the beginning trapped in a drop pod, and she'd been there for years, and she says that she like was waiting there for years just for someone to come to her. Yet somehow at some point she was hiding out in a totally different sector of Earth with Iberus, this other colony member, for an undetermined or an undisclosed amount of time. What's the timeline like there? Like, did she
Yeah.
go back to the colony and then drop down and then get stuck? I just don't understand.
You know what the real answer is? During development, when they were making the different endings, somebody on the writing staff forgot that there was that line way back in the beginning of the game. I'm not even the simplest answer is often the correct one.
Yeah, this might be an Occam's razor situation. You might be right, but it's still just it threw me for a loop as soon as she was saying like, oh, we got to go back. I want to go back here. I got to retrieve something. I was hiding out here with someone else. Like, no, you weren't. You were in a pod in another section of Eidos of the Eidos area. Like, what are you talking about? That being said, I like this kind of backstory. There's kind of like I took it as like some kind of gay undertones between her and Iberus, and kind of the biggest expression, I guess, besides like Enya and Sue, like the biggest expression of emotion and like care between characters in this game was that section going back to her atelier and her retrieving the hacking code from Iberus.
I mean, given how much transhumanism and with transference of memories and all that, like I don't even know if I would. Okay, it's just transhuman in general. Because you got a lot of going between like species, androids, human. It's so muddled, and we've been voicing that. Yeah.
The reason I bring that up is because it seemed romantic. That's essentially what I'm getting.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, right.
She also had the anime blushies for Eve as well. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
The anime blushies. I love that. That's a great way to put it. But yeah,
but I mean, Lily is that archetype in anime, which is why she feels like she actually has a character, even though she really doesn't. But yeah,
well, because nobody really does. But she's one of the ones that comes the closest.
Like you said, she's not stoic.
Yeah.
There was another moment of emotion, and that was between Clyde and Eve when they were fishing. That was beautiful. And
I do want to talk about Clyde and Eve at some point. Probably when we get to like side quests. So let's put a pin in that, and I definitely want to come back to it. But yeah, so that whole section in Eidos 9, I really liked the outcome of that, and then it leads into obviously this last ending, which is I guess the best ending. Delilah, you called it the canon ending. I would assume that it would be the canon ending should they make a sequel, but obviously we don't know for a fact yet. But it's essentially the same as the Cause of Lost Memories ending, but instead Lily's able to get out of Providence, the mech that she's in, because of the hacking code. She's able to
Yeah.
get out of it so she doesn't die, and Eve's fight with the other Andro Ados that Mother Sphere sends ends in her succeeding. She prevails, and they go back to Zion, return that last hypercell, and restore Zion back to its full functionality. It's a very happy ending, comparatively speaking. It's just what's what's next, I guess. Where do they go from there? Like it's going to take some time for, I guess, them to do this homogenization of species that Eve and Adam are I guess now going to attempt. I just don't understand how that works.
Right, because it's like, didn't Raven try to do that with Taki and failed? So like, are we just
I don't
gonna like
even
experiment
know.
and fail on everyone?
That's like another thing that I'm just like, what? Yeah, what was that with Raven and Tacky? Like she kidnapped Tacky and basically tried to make her into or did she make her into an alpha nativa? Was she an
She
alpha
made her,
nativa?
yeah, she was.
Okay.
Yeah, again, these are all things that you're talking about right now where I would point out if you had a lighter tone, wouldn't really matter that much because you wouldn't be trying to take it as seriously as you do.
So what you're saying, Jason, is we should absolutely play Kingdom Hearts.
No, that's an entirely different. That's a can of worms, bro.
I just
Kingdom Hearts takes itself
no,
so
no, 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 no,
seriously that it
no.
needs like
No, no,
30
no,
belts
no,
per
no,
character to
no,
keep it contained.
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. But okay, anyway, I just had
Yeah.
to give you that rag there. Um, so yeah, I mean, those are the three endings. For the
One
game.
one would think, even with the good canon ending, that Mother Sphere still has that weird colony around Earth that she does in the other ending, right?
Yeah.
Because like, why? It seemed like she was building that shit for a long time. You don't just build that at the snap of a finger. So, what is her goal? Like, what's her purpose of doing that? Is it to like?
Well, I mean, the whole shtick of the whole reason for the colony was the narrative that she sold the Andro Ados was um they're the actual humans, and the Nativas had pushed them out so bad that they needed to settle off Earth while they were dropping people down to Earth. And really we find out that the truth is that no, that's where Andro Ados are made, and she doesn't want them finding out the truth, so she tries to keep them off the planet as much as possible, until the Nativas are extinct, and they can resettle and she can finish covering everything up. But I mean, I assume the next step would be Adam and Eve, combined thing would try to homogenize and combine the two species going forward, but Mother Sphere likely is going to push back against that. So,
Right.
I mean, I'd guess the next step is to kill Mother Sphere, while
That's what
also turning the Andro Ados against her.
that's what Raven been trying to do. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, actually, going back to we question Adam's motives, and this just came to me because we talked about how like a lot of the plot, like why go to all these different places, but you could construe that it was their intent because Raven is leaving behind all of these legacies for you to read. That the idea is to acclimate Eve slowly by going to these places and seeing how the Nativa were created, and then seeing the legacies to slowly reveal the truth in a more in a way in which she processes it better, so to
Well,
speak.
yeah, and that's
hmm.
kind of what I was saying earlier, but like it still doesn't really make a ton of sense because
No, I'm reaching for the clouds here. Yeah,
yeah, like why would Raven be in opposition to Eve at all other than jealousy that she doesn't get to be the one
I think that's
to
pretty much it.
Yeah.
Because she
It,
God.
talks a lot about how I know his anger, I know his pain,
She
and then
talks a
he's
lot of shit. Yeah, that's
yeah.
true.
She says that, but then when you go and see him, he's like calm, serene, this angelic figure. It's like I don't think he's got a lot of anger or hate there. Like,
Yeah. Also, one thing I neglected to mention, yeah, maybe we should have seen the twist of him being the Elder Nativa coming because he's like in this game of like, hot lead characters, he's the one that's always the most covered up. And it's like you don't do
Yeah.
that. You don't do that without having to hide something under all those layers of cloth, buddy.
That's true.
and he's always just hanging out by the ship. I mean, he's the only character that never goes anywhere else. Yeah.
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 He's like
Yep.
he's dressed like he's ready to walk along with Sam Porter Bridges delivering cargo to the people of America
Yeah.
with a BB on his chest. Anyway, any other well, I mean, there's more story stuff to talk about, I guess. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about with like Raven? I don't know that there's much more we could say, but I do kind of want to talk about Tacky just a little more.
I
Sure.
guess we could just say that like they tried to set her up as kind of the overarching, not overarching, the immediate antagonist with, and this leads into Taki with the beginning of the game and having to
Yeah.
reveal that this monster that killed Taki at the beginning was indeed Raven. So it sets up like a revenge quest within the plot to try to give some emotional immediacy, but it just doesn't really work because it's not like you're encountering this creature over and over again throughout the game. You really
Right.
just see her at the beginning and at the end. Yeah.
Right. And by the time she shows back up, I kind of forgot that,
Right.
that we didn't kill that Nativa yet. Like it shows back up and I'm like, "Oh yeah, right. This one." And you find out it's Raven and I'm like, "Oh, okay." But to your point, Jason, yeah, she should have shown back up a few times, like interspersed through those whatever they're called, the pucks that have the thing in them,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know, whatever
Instead
they're
of
called.
having those like test fights where you need to get into the facilities, like have like ambushes or somehow she's trying to prevent you or something. Just some fight.
Yeah, but then again, her being in opposition to Eve doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So maybe that's why they didn't do that until they suddenly decided to
It
do
doesn't,
that.
yeah, it doesn't make sense for the aims of Adam, but for her motivations, it actually makes a lot of sense because of her supposed jealousy.
Yeah,
So it could just
or
be
presumed
emotions fighting
jealousy.
against the plan. Yeah, I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah.
It would only
Um.
make sense if her ultimate goal was to become the perfect being to kill Mother Sphere. That's the only thing that
Right, right.
makes sense in
Yeah.
my head.
Yeah. I guess maybe it's not so much jealousy against Eve. It's more so jealousy that she doesn't get to be the one to take it to Mother Sphere. Maybe.
Yeah.
Because again, like that's the most logical next step, right? Is now that they've combined, kill Mother Sphere so that the Andro Ados are being fed all these lies. Um, so
But there's
maybe
also like
Raven really wants that revenge.
she's very emotionally perturbed when you just leave her alive but disfigured and disabled.
Yeah, which I also thought,
She wants you to kill her.
right,
Yeah.
which I also just kind of found as like kind of a strange reaction. I don't know. I guess she just wanted to be Mercy killed, but like she seemed like fucking terrified of it, and I'm like, why? Why do you care that much about not like knowing what we know? Why do you care that much about potentially witnessing Eve and Adam combine? It just, I don't know.
Again, the overarching story is lack of character work, not facilitating a plot that's decent at its basics until you think
Yeah.
about it.
Game is like Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
holy, but it sure is delicious.
It's like a very
Actually,
interesting, nice smelling piece of Swiss cheese.
I'm actually I really don't like Swiss cheese very
Yeah, I
much.
don't either. Unless it's
I
like
don't
melted, but
I don't like cheese at all. I don't eat cheese, but I'm just trying to
wow.
go
Oh,
with the
that's right.
example.
I forgot about that. God, you live in New York and you don't like cheese.
You
Oh,
don't like
so
pizza?
I had a traumatic experience. I'll eat
Oh yeah,
pizza with
you
very low
told me.
amounts of mozzarella, but I had a
Mm.
traumatic experience seeing cheese made, yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh, that's what it was. That's right. You told me
And
about that.
yogurt, yeah.
All right. Tune in next month for our spoiler cast on Jason's trauma.
Cheese
Um,
trauma.
Moving on, I want to talk a bit about Tacky. I can't remember if I already said this or not, but I really feel like she was killed off way too soon in the story.
Yeah, she
Yep.
was killed off in the tutorial.
Yep.
Yeah, and like you're not really given, and again, a lot of this comes down to if maybe if the performances were better, you'd get more of an idea of what their relationship was like. But they don't really have much of a rapport in that first 10 minutes where she's alive. So it's like it's supposed to be this emotional moment of Tacky getting killed, and it's like not, because it's
Yeah.
like I don't know anything about her. I don't really know anything about Eve yet, and I don't
To
know
be
what their
fair,
dynamic was like.
being that Taki was the best looking character, best endowed character in the game, I can't help but admit that I was a bit distraught at the moment.
I
To
Her
some
character
degree.
design was awesome. Don't get me wrong, and we know that she's her mentor. But at the end of the day, yeah, there was no emotional connection. And then
But
when we had
yes,
to
yes,
face
all
off
joking
against
aside,
her,
Okay,
I agree with you. Yes.
okay, so maybe hold on, maybe this is a hot take. I did not find Tacky hot.
I agree to disagree.
But I know this is a sentiment other people have because I've seen people talking about it on like Reddit and stuff, but I did not find Tacky very attractive at all. Um so that's interesting. But anyway, narratively speaking, which is arguably more important than how well endowed she was. Um yeah, she was removed from the story far too early, and then Eve like talks about her here and there throughout like the first half of the game, even in the second half. So
Never
bringing
enough,
her
though.
back
Yeah.
as bringing her back as like the mid climax, like middle of the game climactic fight, that she was being kind of assimilated as a Nativa and having to take her down. Like there was some emotion in that death scene, I'd say, but it still doesn't really go anywhere considering how little we know about their dynamic beforehand.
It's not paying anything off, really. Yeah.
Right, exactly, and that's ultimately the issue I have with Tacky. I wish there was more because again, it would have led to a much more emotionally impacting narrative, but it really wasn't there. It was cool to get like a whole Tacky skill tree though after that fight.
yeah,
That was pretty
Yep.
sick. You
she
get your
was
devil
literally
trigger.
A
a
gameplay mechanic.
one-winged angel.
Yeah,
Oh yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah. That's like another like hilarious, crazy thing is like she has one single wing. Adam has like three wings on
Three,
one side. Like they're really going for the Sephiroth vibes over here in Stellar Blade, but very surface level ones.
yeah,
Um, God. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of how I felt about Tacky. Um, we talked a little bit about some of these other NPCs, some of these other characters. I mean, there's not really much more to say about Oracle, but like Enya and Sue, I thought their story
I
was
will. Can I
pretty.
just say one thing about
Oh,
Oracle?
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I saw the most potential on display for like with the reveal that he is an Atiba and he's actually trying to protect all these Idos. There's actually like a in that one scene when you go to the Burning of Zion and you find him there and it's the reveal and he's dying. He takes
Yeah,
that core. That might have been the most poignant, at least for me, character scene in the entire game. Kind of made me feel like the character of Oracle was just wasted.
yeah. I could agree
yeah,
there.
because he was pretty much just a quest giver until that moment, and you find out that all this intrigue that you've been reading about him is somewhat founded, but somewhat not. Like there's more
Right. It's
going on with him,
misleading.
but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like there's more to the story than what what these rumors are saying, and
Which, as we said before, we all saw coming. Yeah.
yeah, well, in the sense that something was definitely not what we were being told, but
Which is maybe why that moment feels like a payoff because you know in your mind that something is not right about all this info and then it
yeah,
pays off.
you
So,
kind of learn to expect
yeah.
something different, and you do get it. It's just not really what you expected at the end of the day.
Yeah,
But
So
that's
yeah,
all I have to
I
say
agree.
about him because again, I feel he's underutilized. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Um, some of these major side quest characters, Enya and Sue's story. Did that Jason, did you finish that storyline? Did it affect you? Oh
Yes.
yeah, I guess you did because you found out she was an opera singer.
Yeah, I finished all the
Um,
main side quest storylines, yeah.
okay. How did you guys feel about the Enya and Sue storyline?
Eh,
Oh,
eh.
okay. I
What?
mean, the bar wasn't set particularly high, but like with these storyline, or at least the Enya and Sue one, I felt like that was probably the most moving and best
Yes.
side quest line in the game.
I also
Um,
like some of the dialogue that facilitated it, like, the one quest segment begins with her thinking that Sue's cheating on her,
yeah,
and then which
Yeah.
it's totally predictable that he's not, and he's actually in danger trying to, like, get her legs. But
yeah.
overall, like, that full arc of that story, and especially just because it's called Enya. I joked before about my mom listening, but I like Enya from back in the day. Um,
They're
a lot of youngins probably have no idea who I'm talking about who are listening.
gonna Google her right now.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
she was Irish, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny. I went to when I was doing writing up the notes for this game. I forgot Sue's name, so I was like, okay, but I know Enya's name, so I just googled Enya, and that was like I should have known not to just put Enya, but to put Enya Stellar Blade, because clearly Enya from Stellar Blade was not going to be the first thing Google shows me for searching Enya.
but overall, I enjoyed that quest line. My only complaint really was that I felt like we didn't see enough of the bar livening up again once she starts singing again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That would have been that would have been a good payoff, because like, Final Fantasy 16 kind of did that, or like in the sense that there's a hub area, and as the game progresses and as you do other quests
it
and
builds
stuff,
up. Yeah,
it builds, or it evolves, it changes in special, like, fun little ways that pay off in the end. And yeah, you're right. If the bar had started filling up, that would have been really, really, really cool to
but I
see.
I do like at the end, right before the finale, when you talk to all the NPC, if you've done the quest, Enya says to Eve, all I can do for you is sing, so I'll sing for you. I thought that was a nice little moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was nice. And Sue, like, yeah, he was. I mean, the Enya was really what shined, or was really who shined in that quest line. But Sue was good. It was a good devoted
I just find it
character.
funny that, oh my god, Sue is cheating on me because I can't walk. All I can do is stand here in the bar and sing. I just thought that was like a funny, like almost slice of life in the Android
Yeah.
apocalypse.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't worry, lady. He's going to get you legs and a vagina. It's fine.
I don't think he said the last one, but
What was
We all
attached?
know what Sue was thinking, okay?
um yeah, compare, or I guess contrasting with that, Kaya's storyline, I felt like could have been better. It definitely was kind of more abbreviated. With wanting want her wanting you to find her, what happened to her sister.
Mhm.
And I frankly, I don't even really remember what the outcome of that was. I know where
He's dead.
go. Yeah, like, she's dead. That's basically the moral of the story.
Yeah, she's dead. You find her in the desert
Yeah,
in the ring, and you have to fight a mini boss in the open world. Yeah,
yeah,
Which
and
was the only mini boss that wasn't repeated, I believe. That was
yeah,
like a unique mini boss.
yeah. I don't know if it was the only unique one. Maybe it was,
I think
but
so. Out of the alpha nativas, yeah, because the rest
yeah,
of them were just repeated,
yeah,
which we'll talk about in the
yeah. I was
at,
surprised that we'll talk about it
yeah.
later. I was surprised at the enemy variety in this game.
yeah.
Like, in a good way, or I will talk about it later.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, in a
um.
in a good way. Yeah, we'll talk about it
Oh,
later.
okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay, okay. Digger was similarly. He was more lighthearted.
Yeah.
His whole quest line was just wanting you to connect him to the network, and after you do that, he's like, "Okay, I'm going to Zion now." Okay, and then he's
Yeah.
there. That's about it.
yeah.
Thanks, bud.
Um,
I don't have to go through the
The thing
wasteland
about
to get
Diggers,
your stuff.
yeah, no, the thing about Digger's quest line is apparently he's trying to solve an equation, which presumably I'm guessing it's supposed to be he's figuring out how human emotional. He's trying to
Yeah.
like figure out the
oh
equation of
yeah,
life or
it
whatever.
was
I don't
it was
know. I
the
wish
the
they'd explained
fan
it better.
the fantabulous hypothesis. Was that what it was called?
Yeah, he's
It's
basically trying to
something
figure
along
out
those
the
lines.
equation of life,
I think he used
which
the
is
word
not a terrible idea. I just wish they dug into it a little more.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of is fitting with the whole Adam and Eve thing
Yes,
going
he
on.
did. Yeah,
But like, yeah, using the word fantabulous, like, I love. Eve, like there's some of the little moments where a personality shines through. She's just like, is that even a word? Um,
Yeah.
just getting snarky with the NPCs. That's the kind of stuff that we needed more of, really. I guess similarly getting snarky with characters, Roxanne, the extremely homoerotic android that really wanted to fuck Eve. Um,
Yes.
Yes. Very clearly, yes.
yeah.
Roxanne is what the developers thought we would all feel for Eve.
Yeah, she gives you a quest toward the end of the game. I don't even remember, like, what the hell was that quest? It was
Some
like,
Oh, to find the was it the turret or the hyper shield
yeah,
or
it was like
something
to
in the
kill
Great
that,
Desert?
yeah, to kill that big turret or whatever. I
She
think,
wants
and
defenses for Zion, I think, was the
yeah,
goal. Yeah,
I don't even know, man, but like she was a fun character, but she wasn't very involved in anything. So I feel like
and
they needed more of that.
her quest line isn't very well like fleshed out like the others. Yeah,
Yeah. The other NPC I kind of want to bring up is
Wait,
Kasim. Oh, go ahead, go
can I
ahead.
say one real quick thing about Roxanne? I think
Oh
it's funny.
yeah,
You know how at the end when they all huddle together at Zion when you're about
yeah.
to go off to the final mission? I love that she finally unlocks like 2 new outfits for Eve, and they're like the most like sexualized outfits. She's like, I just want you to wear this before you go off on your journey.
Could you put it on before you leave too, please?
Please. Yeah.
Can I take my camera out? Um. So the last NPC I want to talk about is Kasim. Purely because I want to complain about the fact that I really hate that in every playthrough you have to do his side quest before you can unlock the ability to customize your hair. That drives me crazy. I really like his little backstory, like with his daughter, and she's gone,
Mm.
and like the whole hair salon is in her honor and whatnot.
Mm.
His introduction to Eve is calling her hair dull, and she's like, "What do you mean dull?" And he's like, sorry, don't take it the wrong way. It's just like I do more interesting haircuts, but I need my hair supplies. So you want to go find those for me in the scrapyard? Okay, sure. And then you'll make my hair not dull. Cool. Um, just a
to be fair though, that particular quest line is on the path to the main story as it is anyway.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
but still, it's like I
I know,
still
I get
don't,
you, I get
I
you.
still don't want to do it just to customize my hair and then have to go there every time I want to customize my
Yeah, it
hair.
should have been in the menu, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, it's more better contextualized than any other custom. It's not like Eve is, well, I guess from the opening cutscene, she kind of like manifests her suit on herself, so maybe she can do that with all her other suits. Maybe she's not carrying them around in an attaché case, Leon S. Kennedy style.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the hair thing, I just wanted to customize it anytime. But Kasim
Yeah.
as a character was all right.
Yeah.
Um, any other characters or story things to talk about before we move on to some other stuff?
Nothing completely riveting, but that one character that you had to that had like an alcohol problem and you had to keep buying him like uh, getting him alcohol from that flooded city
Yeah,
was funny.
that was the fish salesman guy, right?
Yeah, the fish
Oh,
salesman.
I guess as far as other characters go, yeah, let's talk about Clyde.
I love Clyde. He was like my
Yeah,
favorite character in the whole game.
he was great. And then, like, again, wonderful moment of personality is when you catch all the fish. Did you catch all the fish, Delilah?
No, I was like 2 or 3
Oh.
fish away. I kept getting the same stupid shark and I was like, "F this."
So if you catch all the fish and you go talk to him, he gives you the Ocean Maid outfit,
Yeah.
which is like a very skimpy one piece swimsuit. And he's like he's presenting it as if it's like the fisherman's like gift or something. It's like this ultimate fisherman piece of, or the fisherman's tool. It's like this ultimate piece of
Bathing suit.
fisherman gear. And he hands it to her. She's like, "Oh, you were fucking with me." He's like, "I absolutely was fucking with you." And
That's
like,
the kind of stuff I mean, where that should have just been the tone of the game generally. Yeah,
yeah, and like
Yeah.
it was a really good moment because like it's kind of an acknowledgement. First of all, it's like an acknowledgement
that
of,
you're in a game. Yeah,
well, that, and it's like Eve kind of acknowledging like how kind of pervy everything she wears is.
hmm
And
Yeah.
like clearly she doesn't really like that, but it doesn't matter from a gameplay perspective because the player is going to put whatever they want on her. So it's kind of just a funny, weird, like, not ludo narrative isn't the word that I want to say. That's not the
Met
right word what I'm looking for.
it's kind of meta.
Like the juxtaposition of she clearly doesn't like it, but the game encourages putting these things on her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that would
So
necessarily be meta. I know what you're trying to say though.
yeah,
Yeah,
you know what I'm trying to say. It's
yeah,
just like it's just these two the two things conflict with one another. And I feel like more personality with her character would have gone far to make it into something
right.
commentary or just some funny quirk with her character. If she really doesn't like wearing these things, why does she keep getting them and wearing them? But she doesn't really acknowledge that. It's not acknowledged very often in this game, but that is one moment where she kind of insinuates that she does not like
Right.
the things
And
that she wears.
and I guess just to round out the character discussion on this point, I mentioned earlier there were like glimpses, lines throughout the game that showed hints of a potential character or character arc.
Yeah.
Early in it's Ido 7 is the first area you're in. You come across a library and Adam is explaining to Eve what a book is, but he
Yeah.
explains it in terms of data storage and she says, "Oh, that seems like a waste of space." Which is a
Waste of
great fucking
resources.
character
Yeah.
line. And
Yeah.
it really could have like showed you a character that has a stick up her ass and is all about the mission, transforming
Yes.
and becoming more fun. But it's just never really carried through. She's just kind of stoic and reacts to different situations. Sometimes it's stoically, sometimes there's a little bit of emotion, but nothing really like they don't go anywhere with it. There are
Yeah.
hints that that stuff is there. It's just never it's never consistent is the
Yeah.
problem.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, agreed.
Totally.
Totally
Like she
agreed.
was super tender with Clyde more so than any other character. And it was like nice to see. Like I just wanted to chill there at the Oasis for a while and just fish and hang out with Clyde because of it.
No,
But
I'm surprised you wanted to stay there and fish, Delilah. I mean, usually when
oh,
it comes to a fishing mini game, I'm the one that's like, hell yeah, let's go. Give me that fishing rod, baby. Let's catch some fish. And you're like, get the fuck out of here.
to be fair, I like fishing in games. I just hated Nier's fishing specifically.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
just Niers.
Which
Okay,
this
all
game's
right.
fishing was annoying too, but not as bad as Nier.
Did you ever fish
Okay.
in Final Fantasy 15?
Yes.
Oh God, I forgot. I forgot how
I
how the fishing
actually
in that
think the
works.
fishing was excellent in that game.
Okay.
Ooh, hot take.
But
Yeah.
but
I'm
but
just kidding. I
But
barely. But
did you play the VR exclusive fishing game Monster of the Deep Final Fantasy 15?
Oh god, I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah,
No,
that's
I
that
didn't.
in my inevitable goal to get every Final Fantasy trophy, every North American Final Fantasy trophy, that one is like looming above my head like
I will never understand either of your trophy hunting madness, but to put yourself through that sadistic act of trying to get every Final Fantasy trophy, I
Hey
pity
Yeah.
man,
you.
I'm not doing too bad. I'm getting pretty close. Anyway, um I guess talk on the topic of mini games. We had fishing. We had some hacking mini games.
Oh, those were
Uh,
so fucking. Oh, wait. You might be talking about something different from me.
well, I'm just talking about generally like there were a lot of like, and this is something I think I brought this up in our Final Fantasy VII Rebirth episode. It like almost harkens back to an old style of game development and game design
Yes.
where you'd get these one-off mini games that like you would do and then never do again.
Mhm.
And I really kind of liked that because that's just the kind of thing that I guess it makes me feel nostalgic for a simpler time, or it's just neat that the game throws that kind of curveball at you. And I didn't even like I played through the game 3 times, and every single time I would get to one of those and be like, oh yeah, I forgot this is here, because you just do it the one time and then you move on.
Are you
Um,
are you specifically talking about like the hacking type mini game,
yeah,
or the
like you have the
number
bio
pressing
like you have the
ones? Yeah.
BioShock like tube ones at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have like the two pipes that are like interconnected with one another, and you got to put one color through the circle thing or the junction point before you put the other one through. God, I feel like there were like a
They had
few
the
others.
Yeah,
D-pad chess one.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
those are really common. But
Yeah.
that
yeah.
is one of them that I'm thinking of.
They
There's
had
a few.
the
And then the
slippy
ones with
slide.
the numbers are all blacked out, but it slows down the cursor over some of them.
Yeah,
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 Yeah.
no,
yeah.
no, I agree. Those are really fun. And to what you're saying about an older style of gameplay, and we'll get into this as we talk more about gameplay. I once heard it put really well, like talking about a classic game like Prince of Persia, where like you're doing 15 minutes of platforming, then puzzle solving, then combat, and it kind of goes in a loop where you're never doing one thing for too long. So the
Hmm.
pacing feels really well, and you never get bored of anything. And that's kind of a very common feature of older game design. Whereas nowadays, especially with live services, you're kind of doing the same short gameplay loop over and over and over and
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah.
And I think when we see it as it's done in this, where you're doing so many different things between this, some side quest mini games, fishing, combat, story bits, boss fight. There's so much variety that nothing ever really feels stale or feels like it overstays its welcome.
Yeah, and
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 I
it's
think what you're talking about is part of that. Yeah,
it's also not too much. It's not so overwhelming and it's very optional. Like they only force you to do it a few number of times. The rest of it is more or less optional, which I can
right.
Yeah,
appreciate.
and it's always just like one. It's like one and done for most of them, right?
Mhm.
You do the mini game one time, and then that's it. It was just to open this one door or get through this one thing. I think Delilah, you were about to bring up the tube, the hyper tube got section, like I
Oh
guess
yeah,
in
that yeah.
Fire 4, and that's like that. I guess that is kind of a mini game, but that one was like super fun because it was just sliding down and avoiding obstacles. Eventually, you have to do some quick QTEs and stuff, and yeah, that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Breath of fresh air. The
yeah,
the 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 game structure in itself, not talking about story or stuff like that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think we're getting more. I think we're done with story pretty much. We're kind of moving
yeah.
into
If things come
yeah.
up, they come up. But like, yeah. Otherwise, I'm moving on.
Yeah.
I
Now
guess.
on to the positives that I think we all enjoyed. Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, I do want to talk about some just a few more side quest things
well,
before
yeah,
we continue.
yeah,
Just because there were a few side quests that I found um kind of just interesting. There were I guess more specifically, there were two side quests that you didn't do. I don't know if either of you found these in the bulletin board requests. There was like
Oh yeah.
one where someone wanted, and this again, this comes through with like going back to Eve showing like a little bit of personality, which I found hilarious. Was like one was asking for drugs and the other was asking for you to kill someone out of revenge. And
oh, the ones you deny. Yes,
those are
yes.
two requests where if you go to accept them, Eve is like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that. That's messed up." And
Yeah.
they're just permanently rejected. And I found that so funny because
Yeah.
again, it's a showcase of personality in the character where the game otherwise doesn't really showcase any of that.
Through the gameplay itself. Yeah.
And yeah,
Yep.
it's kind of contextualized in an act that you do in gameplay, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So I wanted to highlight that. Otherwise, there's not really many other side quests. Oh, there was one other side quest that I thought was really interesting. It was the teddy bear guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um, his daughter's memory stick in a teddy bear, and then lost the teddy bear, and he was like devastated, and that's why he like you can go into his little abode way before he gives you that quest, and you're just like, what the fuck's up with this guy and all these teddy bears? And then when you find the explanation, it's like, oh man,
Hmm.
that's really heavy. And then you bring the teddy bear back, and then you get the teddy bear suit.
Probably my
um,
favorite. Oh, sorry. I didn't
no, go ahead, go
keep going.
ahead.
I was just going to say probably my favorite side quest, not just in the actual quest, what you have to do, I thought was really fun, but the payoff and then the ending was the one where you have to find that secret chamber um
Yeah,
with like the rebel group where they're like promised some
The-
sort of like salvation from Oracle and
well,
Zion and all that.
it was another biblical thing. It was the Ark.
Right, it was the Ark, and
Yeah.
but I really enjoyed how you had to go around the city, find the different
Hmm.
symbols, and then
Mm.
it's not terribly difficult. Not like my other favorite was the bounties for the math problems. Those were awesome.
Oh yeah,
Um,
those are cool.
but it wasn't super difficult, but it was enough where I was kept engaged and fun. And then the payoff is you actually find a chamber and there's a sequence of events. It tries to close down, you got to escape. And I like, you can talk about how not well put together the actual story elements behind that are, but the quest in and of itself was super fun. I was like, holy shit, this is a side quest?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in an open world game, well, not really open world, but world game in 2024. This is
Yeah.
awesome.
There were a few quests that were more involved and didn't just explicitly tell you like what to do. Like there was the one bulletin board request with the involving the prayers that you could find,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you had to find those in like very across like a few different levels, and then put the code together, and then and open the thing. And it wasn't like a huge conclusion or anything. I think it just gets you a suit and completing the side quest. But the fact that it was so involved that you really had to like explore and discover things in order to piece the put the pieces together, that's what I really liked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was like me with the math ones. I fucking loved those math. I wish there was
Yeah.
more of those math bulletins, the
Yeah, there
math
were only
problems.
two. I
Yeah.
thought there'd at least be a third. But there's a few lingering threads though with at least one side quest I can think of. I thought there were two that were kind of that kind of leave some dangling threads. And maybe this is like DLC teasing or something. There was that one side quest where that person wants you to follow them into a back alley, and then they just give you this mobile console thing, and then
Mm.
that's it. And you just have that in your inventory. And I
I
thought that
thought
that
I
would
I thought I just forgot to do the rest of it. I didn't realize that was it.
No, that was it. You get it. He says, "Yep, someone just told me to give you this, so peace." And then
Oh yeah, I didn't
that
even.
never comes up again unless it's something that's super well hidden and no one's found
There
yet.
are other quests where there's apparently like a mysterious benefactor that I don't think they explained. Maybe you were gonna
Okay.
say that because you said 2, maybe you were gonna mention the other one.
I think I remember another one, but I don't remember what it
It
was.
was where the kid you have to go meet the kid beneath the bridge.
That's what it was. Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. And she brings up like someone told asked me to ask you this, and you never find out who. Yeah, I don't know if that's very 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 ahead of schedule DLC teasing, or if that was left intentionally mysterious. I have no idea, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
definitely something to think about with the side quests.
Hmm.
Uh anyway, let's talk about combat. What do you guys think of the
Awesome.
combat?
Actually
Yeah.
exceeded my expectations. I thought this was just going to be a regular typical hack and slash game, and while it wasn't in many ways, I thought that the timing of the parries and the dodges and the abilities that you unlock made it a bit more refreshing than typical hack and slash, and I just really enjoyed it.
It definitely borrows a lot of elements from different, so, like, you go in thinking it's going to be like a hack and slash, kinda like with styled after that Platinum Games, Nier Automata,
Yeah, like
quickness, but it's almost Souls-like in the deliberate nature of it, but obviously a little faster. So
Yeah.
it has its own unique spot that's really fun to learn and kind of build up that skill expression and get better at. And at the same time, I felt like the progression system, the RPG side of it, had ramifications, but at the same time didn't deny my skill expression. It was this really great balance with a lot of
the
variety, especially when you factor in all the items and guns that you get. Yeah.
yeah, the game that I kind of feel, at least that I've played, that feels the closest to this was Jedi Fallen, or like the Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor. I know Sekiro has come up as like the biggest parallel, but I haven't played Sekiro. I don't know if you could speak to that more, Delilah.
I
Um,
would say, and when it comes to pairing, nothing touches Sekiro. Sekiro is like a dance of parrying, and so it's extremely
Yeah.
precise. It's like a rhythm game
I
for
just
parries, but
I just mean like
yes,
general mechanically, that seems to be the biggest parallel that people keep bringing up.
it did have really good parry system.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And
But yeah,
dodge
for
and dodge, and I like how they kind of force you to use the parry, dodge, and all those mechanics. You're
yeah.
not forced to upgrade them, but you have what you need to be able to engage with all the enemies, which again goes to that variety, how much variety there is. And you also have combat sections where you can only use your gun, adding to that constant cycle of you're always doing something different, or at least it feels
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, they definitely had a lot of variety. Yeah, a lot of people going into this game, everyone kind of thought it was going to be like closer to Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, Nier Automata, and yeah, it definitely came out having a much different feel. Definitely more
Right.
FromSoft
I
combat
said at the
its
trailer.
contemporaries. Go ahead.
I said at the trailer. I remember we did a show on it. I think for one of the game shows that I said, "Oh, it just looks generic." I had no expectation of enjoying this game as much as I did.
Well, I think by
Yeah.
Yeah.
at that point they still hadn't really shown much of like actual raw gameplay. So I think we were all kind of wondering as a collective community, like what is this game going to look like? Because it sure is looking like it's got Nier Automata like vibes and look to it, but like, is it going to have that? And it didn't, like at least not in the gameplay side, really at all. But like, it definitely has like its own. I would say it's derivative of a lot of things. It plays and feels like a lot of things we've all played, but it still does all those things really well. It still feels
Yeah.
very good to
Yeah.
play, and it's got lots of variety. It's got lots of options without feeling too overwhelming. Um, Anytime I play Bayonetta, it always stresses me out how many different combos are available to you, and I never know like which ones to use, or like I can't memorize them all because there's too many. It's too many for an action game. This had a very respectable amount of combos that always kind of made logical sense. It's like your combo variety would evolve from, press square, and then the next button you could press is either square or triangle, and then from there it's like, okay, pressing the same button again will do a different combo, pressing the different button will go into a different combo. And they all just had like logical chains from there just based on those two buttons, and it was manageable to memorize, it was manageable to mix things up, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with this combat. I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah. And to
Yeah.
Jason's point, the
It does a really.
implementation. Oh, sorry.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Continue.
Oh, I was gonna say the implementation of the like third person shooter kind of stuff was very intuitive. Like I didn't feel like it was jarring going from hack and slash to just shooting, and then being able to use the combination in practice, like when you're in the open world, um, felt like easy to navigate, which is I really didn't expect. And granted, I didn't find it very useful to use both for boss fights unless you had to shoot something to avoid like a one hit kill. Um,
Yeah.
The
but
mechanics. Yeah.
yeah, but I still thought that having all of those options, including items that you can use, which I barely use, but it all felt very intuitive
I
to
almost
use.
forgot I had them until like the
Yeah.
end. Yeah.
Yeah, the end is when I needed to use them a little more.
Yeah.
Like the shot grenades to knock them back and shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I started realizing and making more use of like my items and other like ammunition and stuff on the last bosses of hard mode, because man, they get brutal, and to be able to just like knock Raven on the floor for a few
Knocked it.
seconds so I could use
Yeah.
a healing
It's
item was
actually
like,
way
oh
more
my god.
valuable than you think it is.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
Yeah,
definitely.
early on in the game, you don't realize how valuable that is to just be able to knock the enemy back and down to give yourself a break.
Hmm.
yeah, no, I had a beta skill that I pretty much spammed because it almost always knocked down every single boss every single time I used it. And so I just used like different exospines to max out my beta recharge rate and would just like demolish bosses pretty easily. And there was still a difficulty spike when you hit Raven compared to the other bosses, but having that knockdown ability is really key to the game, to the point where it almost felt cheesy, but I still had fun using
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And I do think like hard
What
difficulty. Go ahead, Jason.
all I was gonna say was to your point what you were saying before, Mark. I think this combat system does well because it strikes this really great balance of at the baseline, you're not punished for being at the baseline. But at the same time, you are very much rewarded the higher up the skill curve you go. So it doesn't feel like because you don't know all those combos in and out that you are actively losing because of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the more of the system you utilize and the more you get to familiarize yourself with the timing and execution of the various combos, you feel a noticeable difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what did I want to talk about next? Oh, I guess just a little bit with like progression and how all that functioned. Mostly about like I'm just curious what exospines you guys primarily used and the combat gears and stuff. Was there like a specific loadout or anything that you guys made use of a lot, or were you changing it up pretty frequently?
I would put the one, there was like one that increased range attack whenever I was in the sections where you can only use guns.
Yeah.
Other than that, I just used anything that maxed out my beta or my reflexes, which would
Okay.
increase timing for dodge or parry.
Yeah. Jason, what about you?
I kept the same base like combo one that just upgrades your combo damage, and
Okay.
then when you get the addition to add another one, yeah, I put it in reflexes because I really wanted to just have that base skill, so that like yeah, I built up through the combos. I would build up both my meters. I didn't want to focus too heavily on beta or um.
Burst.
There's the second burst. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I used both, and you have to use both, but I purposely, deliberately, and that's where the skill expression comes in, was going back and forth between dodging and blocking to build up those meters so that I had them. And again,
Yeah.
just that variety of the fact that I was able to do that, make that conscious choice for that build, and then focus on my defenses, my shields, and whatnot to give myself the flexibility to move around between all these different systems. Just super enjoyable, super satisfying when I got it to work and nailed the combos and the moves.
Yeah, and God, speaking of like progression and just using getting and using new skills, like the ones that all the skills that involved like holding the last button of a combo to do like a super powered move that would like charge and use some of your beta or burst, like loved those. The ones that the follow-up attacks that you'd use after a counter attack from a parry or a dodge, like again, lots of options, lots of variety, and it's not too overwhelming. It's like overall, it's got like this complex simplicity to it. I would say nobody does it better than Devil May Cry, but this does do a very good job of having that simple complexity or that complex simplicity, whichever way you want to slice it. I was
Yeah.
very, very happy with this combat.
There were even some skills like the ambush that added some stealth mechanics to the open, which came in handy for the open world sections, because you could just go behind and hit a button and they were dead like one shot. And also, there was something else that made it interesting. I can't. I just lost it. I'll say it when I remember.
All right, yeah, that was actually one of the exo
Oh,
spines.
the rush. Sorry, I remember the
Oh,
rush
oh
ability.
yeah,
Being able
oh
to like
yeah.
close in the space was really useful.
I was using that like crazy too.
Yeah.
My two main exospines were, yeah, I guess all of us used reflex pretty much all the time, always. But like when roaming around like the bigger open areas, or even some of the linear levels, I had camouflage on just so I could get quick and easy stealth kills. Eventually I switched,
Mm.
was using judgment a lot, the tacky one,
Hmm.
um, to just
Oh,
use
okay,
that
yeah.
more often. Yeah, pop my devil trigger and just go to ham on some enemies. And then yeah, the range in the gun only areas was I think you get that exospine like right before Altesse Lavoir, so it's like the game is like basically telegraphing like put this on, you're gonna want it, you're gonna need it.
Yeah.
Um, so
The
okay,
funny thing
yeah.
is I didn't even use it.
Oh well, Jason's
I
just
don't know
too good
why,
of a
I should have,
gamer.
but
Well, that's all right.
I will also say those sections were surprised. This game had a lot of horror themes,
Yeah,
and I
those
did not expect that.
those were definitely like more horror-esque areas for sure. Lights
Yeah.
are off. Fucking these
a lot
goddamn
of
nativas.
environmental variety generally, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these damn nativas hiding around corners, ready to pounce.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Speaking of which, Jason, I know you wanted to talk about some of the enemy variety and enemies in general. I think the enemy variety was pretty good in this game, and the bosses were definitely a lot of fun to take down. Did you guys have any favorites?
Hmm.
It's hard not to pick the last few bosses just because they were the biggest spectacle in terms of music composition and character design and difficulty.
Um, I need the soundtrack to come out because the second Raven fight song is just
Um,
like so
it was
energetic
like
and so much
it
fun.
was so Splatoon. It reminded me of Splatoon.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the soundtrack for this game, in my opinion, was phenomenal overall. Some of the vocal tracks and some of the Eidos 7's vocal tracks, some of the other ones, they start to wear on you for a little bit, but at least once you progress to a certain point in the level, it changes to a different song, so it doesn't overstay its welcome as long as you're continuously moving. But yeah, the soundtrack in this game was pretty dope. I
Yeah, it was
really enjoyed it.
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Um,
think
but
it'll be a Game of the Year nomination for soundtrack for sure.
maybe we'll have to see. It would be nice to see, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say Raven was definitely a standout boss for me. Jason, what about you?
Yeah, I liked Raven a lot. The second to last boss. I thought there was some interesting what's the word I'm looking for? Interesting shakeups where she can deny beta abilities. So if you were over relying on those, you had to look for other ways. Interesting stuff like that. Throughout, I thought there were great boss mechanics that emphasized different aspects of the combat system. They made sure to have at least one for each. Um,
Yeah.
it's really hard because other than the final boss, which I found a little too punishing with too much health, I really, really enjoyed just about every boss. And I was really happy to see, just in terms of the bog standard enemies, there weren't too many straight up reskins. Each had different move sets, even if slightly varied up. So I
Oh
felt like
yeah,
I
for
was
sure.
fighting different enemies throughout the entire game. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The only thing that I thought was a little funny, and it's supplemental stuff, so it doesn't matter, is the main bosses are repeated, except the last few and Taki. Like the basically the human-esque characters,
Yeah,
bosses don't repeat, but like the
Hmm.
regular Alpha Nativas repeat in the open world as part of side quests and exploration, and they're harder actually than the main bosses. So that was cool to like fight a harder version of them, but I also felt like, it's you're just repeating like the same boss.
Yeah, it's almost like a challenge mode, though,
That's true.
because like you said, they are definitely a bit tougher. They hit harder. They kind of scale with you where you are in progression. Yeah.
and they did patch in and add a challenge mode where you fight both variants of the bosses
Ah.
to unlock a new exosuit. Like they don't just have the first variant; they have every single one from all the side quests. And you have to have done the quest in order to unlock it. Um,
That's
so
cool.
you want to unlock, and it's a pretty good exosuit, gotta say. Did my third playthrough wearing that one, so want to jump into challenge mode and do another playthrough in a new exosuit, go for it. Speaking of exosuits, I kind of want to pivot to talking about like the collectibles. Because there's a good amount of collectibles in this game. I would boil down the big ones, the main ones, the important ones. Because there's a lot of different like doohickeys with there's like the memories, there's the um
Documents.
advertisement, yeah, documents, like all that stuff. And that some of that stuff is interesting. It gives you some context and some lore for the world and whatnot. But the two most interesting ones I would say are obviously the exosuits and the cans.
Yeah, well, the animation for the cat is hilarious
And
when she picks it
again,
up.
showing some personality. When
Yeah.
she picks up a can, it was like the cutest thing. Because
Yeah.
it's like a ta-da moment, and she does like a
Yeah.
little pose for picking up a goddamn like coffee can. I loved it. I
I
loved it
wanted
so
to
much.
drink all 50 of them, but like cans, or all 100, however there many there were, because they
Yeah,
look delicious.
and they're probably not real, but I almost was like sitting there wondering, like, are these real Korean brands? Because you see a lot of that stuff in a lot of Japanese games. Like they have real Japanese branded like beverages and stuff. Like I mean, look at Metal Gear Solid 3 or Metal Gear Solid 4 rather. Regain was a drink that Snake could drink in Metal Gear Solid
Right.
4. That's a real beverage you can get in Japan. I drank way too much Regain when I lived there. Um, because it was delicious and it gave me energy, but at the end of the day it's an energy drink. But yeah, I was
Yeah.
like looking at all these. There's coffees, there's teas, she's picking up cans of beer, all sorts of different cans.
Yeah.
It was just, and a lot of the
And you get
puzzles.
some pretty.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you do get some pretty impactful rewards in terms of item capacity if you go
Yeah,
far enough down. Yeah.
and the final reward is basically just lingerie.
Yeah.
That's it's basically lingerie.
Lace.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk about this when we get to exosuits. But yeah, I really like the cans. And it showed some personality, and the rewards were good. And the puzzles, some of the puzzles you had to solve specifically to find a can. They were some of the best like exploration puzzles in the game.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was really really cool coming across one of those, figuring it out, and getting a can as a reward.
Hmm.
Because a lot of those puzzles were some of the best.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
as far as the exosuits go, uh, I like played way too much of this game than I needed to on New Game Plus because I wanted to get all the variants, all of the exosuits. So a New Game Plus in this game, I think, is really cool. You unlock new. It's like more than just playing the game again, but souped up. Like you unlock new skills. You can play through it on hard mode, which I wound up doing. Um, Opening the same chest or the same exosuit chests again gets you like a different color variant of them. And same with like some of the accessories. You can
Hmm.
get like different variants of like some of the same accessories, like her earrings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a really fun, rewarding New Game Plus. Uh, the one thing I don't like about a lot of the outfits is a lot of her heels don't have heels. Katie kept calling them hoof shoes, and I'm like, oh, that's so gross. I don't like it. I do not like it.
The funniest
That's
part
so
is that
funny.
the outfit I gravitated towards and used for the majority of my playthrough once I found it was the Wasteland Adventure one, which was leather jacket, says for all mankind, and then has Eve name tag, and she's got jeans and like somewhere between heels and boots, which I thought was like
Yeah.
made combined with a nice red hair, which I was surprisingly not too bright, and some cool thin matrix styled sunglasses. She was like the perfect mix
Oh,
of
I
like
love
80s
those.
rocker, 90s cyberpunk, matrix slash matrix. She looked like a matrix character with some like 80s hair metal flair. It was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't even go for any of like the lace
definitely
shit or anything. Yeah.
I found a lot of the outfits where she was most covered to be cooler looking. Um
Yes.
I liked the Planet Diving version 3 because she had that like that Leon Kennedy jacket.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't like the outfit under it. I felt like with the tail it like took away from it, although I like that it glowed neon, but using that with like the big aviator sunglasses was like badass. I love that shit. It was like this game like with the exosuits, like I wanted all the exosuits in the way that I wanted all the skins in Spider-Man. And it
Yeah.
was yeah, like I felt like they were on par with Spider-Man suits honestly, and that's a big take cuz like Spider-Man suits are dope as fuck.
And frankly, at least not to say I don't like Spider-Man suits, but like all of those you pretty much get like either by completing like side quests or by buying them with materials and stuff. Most of these you find as a reward for like exploring or finding something cool or
Leveling up the relationship with a character by actually doing the
yeah.
other content. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I feel like these were a lot more rewarding than that, which I think is great because I mean, what's more rewarding than a new outfit for the cute Korean girl?
There's also just way
Um,
more variety because it's not just Spider-Man reiterations.
yeah, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variety there with Spider-Man. There's many
There is,
many
yeah, yeah.
decades of
I'm
Spider-Man.
not. I'm not trying to minimize that. Just to
I
say
know,
that,
I know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was switching up my exosuits like pretty much throughout the entire playthrough. Um, There were
Same.
the ones that I just didn't like the ones that didn't have heels on the heels. Those just like
Yeah.
weirded me
You're
out,
very
man.
hung up on these hoof heels, yes.
Dude, I was like,
Yeah.
look, yeah, they freaked me out, man. They were weird. Like if you're gonna wear heels, commit to the heel part.
Yeah.
Damn it,
Yeah.
like. But yeah, a lot of people were clamoring over the skin suit, like, oh my god, the skin suit. Oh, she's basically naked. Honestly, like if you're in this game for the sexiness of it, there's so much more to be found in that corner with the outfits that cover her up more than the skin suit does.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I don't know, different strokes for different folks, I guess. But I feel like I never used the skin suit because why? It
It made her feel more like an alien
yeah,
than like a
yeah.
human, and that just I mean, her body shape in general is just strange,
Yeah.
because of like the alien likeness of it. I felt like it was like banging a robot in Mass Effect or something like that. Like it for me, it wasn't like actually sexy. It was just like it's just sexualized indeed. But I found, like Jason said, the outfits that like covered her more to be cooler looking and more humanized her a little bit more.
No, for exactly. I totally agree. I guess on the topic of um the sexualization, I do want to talk a little bit about the controversial aspects of this game. Where pre-release it was pre-release of this game was obnoxious to me because all anyone would talk about is she sexy? Is she not sexy? Is she too sexy? Is this really doing anything for this game? And um I just wanted to hear how the game was. I wanted to hear about the combat. I wanted more people to be talking about that or the story or anything. And obviously when we played it, obviously when reviews hit, like we found out more about that. Um but the other thing I want to talk about is just this really briefly because I don't want to harp on this for too long. But the ridiculous petition and the ridiculous movement
Bro.
that arose
So
around this game's release.
so for the most part, I'm probably gonna agree with you on the ridiculous, at least in terms of the people voicing their concerns and going and signing this thing and
Yeah,
what have you. I do want to pose though, because I actually did go and look into this because you sent me originally the tweet and the petition, and I was like, this looks really fucking dumb. To be fair, there's a lot of fucking dumb people that latched on to a few people who were genuine, and it isn't necessarily just limited to this game. It's in general a lot of games coming over to Sony platforms from Japan that were censored in some ways, big or small, versus the lack of censorship for Western devs. Like, look at Last of Us Part Two.
yeah.
So
So
there were some people, I would probably say a minority, who did have very legitimate concerns about that,
well,
but there
they're
were a lot
called.
of fucking dumb people who latched onto them, yes. It's like
Here's the
Gamergate back in the day, yeah.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like they're calling out that double standard, right? Like we're not going to say it, but y'all, if you play The Last of Us Part 2, y'all know exactly what Jason's talking about. Um, as far as a double standard goes, right? It just pertains to whether or not this game was or was not censored. If this game was censored because two outfits, really, no, two outfits had a little bit less skin showing versus all the others where there is like so much showing. It does not leave much to the imagination on a lot of these exosuits. Like these two suits, they even Kim Hyung Tae said on release day when he was questioned about this, those are the suits that we wanted you to see. They're exactly how we wanted you to see them. And they later released the two suits for free without like the things that people keep complaining
Yeah.
about.
Right.
If the game was censored, not only would they not have been able to do that, just release those for free for everybody, likely to get people to shut the fuck up, they wouldn't have the other 70 suits in the game that reveal as much as they do.
Look, I'm just playing devil's advocate and
I know, I know, I
and
know.
and pointing out the points of view that people have espoused. I'm not saying it's mine.
So
Just saying that was like an argument being made. Yeah.
yeah, and I would say that that's a legitimate argument if there actually was censorship, but there isn't. It's very clear that there is no censorship in this game. I guess for the uninitiated, the people that have no clue what I'm talking about, because they are just so blissfully ignorant of the stupid shit that happens on the internet. There were two.
Good for you.
Yeah, good for you.
I mean, that's me.
That's
like I hear all this shit secondhand from you.
That's true. That's true. People complain about censorship, and then I go to you and complain about the people complaining about the censorship.
As we say at the end of every episode, I'm not on anything for a very specific reason, and this is part of it.
Good. You're not terminally online like I apparently am. So for the people that don't know, there were two suits that in the 1.0 version of the game had a little more cleavage and a little more underboob showing. And then on the release day of the game, when the patch came out, somebody somehow noticed that those things were a little more obscured. There was more fabric over the cleavage. There was fabric over the underboob of one other suit that was covering that stuff up. And this has led to an entire movement of frankly incels. Sorry if any of our listeners signed that petition. If you did, I'm kind of ashamed of you. But it led to a group of incels led by a specific ex-Blizzard employee who I will not name, making a change.org petition asking them to release the uncensored suits, because apparently this is censorship. Never mind that this isn't that isn't really what censorship is. It's not like there's something that they're trying to say that they're not being allowed to say. The developers just intentionally covered up some things on some suits because they wanted to. Those are the designs they wanted to release.
Yeah.
And they've essentially been lambasted and bullied into releasing the suits that weren't like that because people wouldn't stop asking for them. So there you go. And hopefully this leads to the end of that whole debacle, but these people are still crying about it. I saw people crying about it the day that patch came out. So
my perspective is every game lately we have a segment where we need to address controversies, because gamers nowadays have nothing better to do but create controversy about games. When
it has been really bad this year.
It's just, people got too much time on their hands.
Like Mark said, it's terminally online culture where the controversies don't even become about the games. They come about the people playing the games for entertainment for other people on Twitch. Yeah.
And honestly, I'm a woman. I don't give a shit how she's designed. I don't give a shit about her exosuits. It was fine. I actually enjoyed the exosuits, over-sexualized or not. My biggest problem was that Eve was bland, and I probably would have been more into her character design if I actually liked her character, just like I like Bayonetta's character. I like Tifa's character. There's a lot of like high over-sexualized characters that I quite enjoy as characters, and Eve isn't one of them, unfortunately. And it has nothing to do with her design.
Bam.
Yeah.
Mic drop. It's like the end of 8 Mile right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I just
gangster. Your real name's Clarence. Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically all I wanted to talk about with the controversy section. I just wanted to address that.
Yeah.
Because frankly, I think it's really embarrassing.
It's sad.
It's really
porn.
Yeah,
it's free.
Right. It's free. It's online. You're already online. Just go to Pornhub.com and search Eve Stellarblade, and I'm sure you'll find something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't understand it. But anyway. No, I'm glad you said that, Delilah, because that's a really poignant way of summing it up. And I think Jason and I both echo that sentiment. And it's good to hear it from you, coming specifically from you as our resident woman on the podcast.
Yes.
Say that, that's not really what matters. You don't give a shit about it. You found it fun, but the character
I don't
herself,
even pay attention to it. Like a few minutes in, I was just like focused on the comments. Like, yo, the comments the combat's so badass. Like, I don't even care.
And why aren't any of these people talking about the actual game post release?
Because frankly, that's not why they're buying the game. We all know why they're buying the game, and thus we all know why they're signing that petition.
Mm-hmm.
So that we could just leave it at that. Anyway, that's basically all I have to talk about. Is there anything else you guys wanted to bring up before we move on to the final question?
No, I think Delilah basically summarized the game perfectly in a couple of sentences, including that one,
Yeah,
where
I guess so.
story can take it or leave it, gameplay awesome,
Man,
surprisingly so,
I should
very
just
fun to
edit
play
out
through.
the past 2 hours and just leave it at that. Be our shortest episode yet.
That's it. Bye, guys.
All right, so let's just talk through the final question real quick. They're already Shift Up and Kim Hyung Tae is already talking about a potential sequel. I guess, would you guys play a sequel to Stellar Blade, and what would you like to see from it?
Yes, I would. Um, I would like to see the combat just being as good as it was,
Okay.
and the story being much better.
Yeah.
So, to quote a great man, I hate sequels. Sequels limit a world. I think that if they do a sequel to this in the style of Final Fantasy, it should have the same combat. Obviously, they can make tweaks, change adjustments, whatever fixes they feel they need to make. Not necessarily have it be in an entirely different world, but like not follow the same character
Mm,
and try to tell a different story. It maybe could be in a totally different aesthetic genre, although it won't be because I need to reuse assets. But
I
yeah.
mean, even if we stick to how closely this game is inspired by Nier, they could do a sequel that's 2,000 years later. You know,
right,
Mhm.
yeah.
Nier Automata was really closer to like 10,000 years later, but if just using a more modest number, like they could have it set in the same world, have the events of this game, yeah, set it like hundreds or thousands of years later, and it's after the two species have been homogenized and the Earth has been reclaimed by
Bam! You just did it
the,
right there. You
this
did
whole
the writer's
thing.
room job right there.
Yeah, Shift Up, hire me. um. But yeah, that's something they could do. And like given that these characters are like do kind of live eternally, like they could still stay in the game. They could still be the main cast. But it could be so far removed that things are different. It's a completely different
Maybe
a
they go to a
completely
different
different
planet.
yeah, or in general there's just a different threat or something. But I think overall, I think if there is going to be a sequel to this, it's going to be the fight against Mother Sphere. I kind of think that's where this is going to go. And then instead of
Probably.
fighting Natiba throughout the entire game, you'll be fighting different, like, fucked up Androidos,
Yeah.
probably. So yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen, obviously, and who knows? We might even get DLC before we get a sequel. So
Yeah.
we shall see. But I mean, Jason, I don't think you said, like, would you play a sequel to this game?
Absolutely.
Okay, there we go.
I had
There
so
we
much
go.
fun, despite all the criticisms we had of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, like really, that's just the problem. Is they just need better, more competent writers in the writing room, and then this game would have been
Yeah.
it would have been one of the best games of the generation, or it had the
Mhm.
potential to be, I should say. It had the potential to be one of the best games of the generation, but no, I still had a lot of fun.
I
Yeah.
think it might be my favorite game. Actually, no, that's not true.
It's
Because
definitely my
16, but
second.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, it might be my second favorite game of this generation. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it would be your third because Stellar Blade, then Final Fantasy 16, and then Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, obviously at the top. That's top dog.
I thought you were going somewhere serious there for a moment.
That's top dog for Jason
I
Klosnicki.
didn't realize you were making such a blatant joke.
Anyway, Jason, what's the Klosnicki rating on this?
7 out of 10 solid.
Okay, there we
Which
go.
go
Mhm.
for those who like my question where my rating numbers come from, try to find some sort of consistency thing. It's not like always everything's weighted equally. I don't weigh story as much in that score simply because it's not really as relevant or important to the enjoyment, to the
Yeah,
gameplay at the end of the day. And it's fantastic. And they did a great job as we talked about with all the design.
Yeah.
yeah.
And it had great graphics, aesthetics, as we mentioned briefly, music,
Yeah.
all the things worked together and kept me engaged against all my expectations.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
Oh,
All right.
7 soda cans.
Oh,
Just to be clear.
thank you. Thank
That's
you.
good.
Very good. All right. All right. Anything else to bring up before we close out? Okay, all right. Then if you like this episode, thanks so much for listening. If you're listening on YouTube, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Leave us a comment, tell us what you like, tell us what you didn't like about Stellar Blade. Please don't tell me if you signed that petition. I really don't want to know. It'd probably be better if I didn't know.
But you can tell us if you signed a petition. We want to hear about that
A
and
relevant one.
more
Yeah.
comments. Well, relevant has such a loose definition as long as
True.
it creates comments and conversation. Yes.
I'm pretty sure I signed a change.org petition back in the day to localize Kingdom Hearts Final Mix in the West, so. And that eventually happened, so hey, maybe dreams do come true. No, I'm just kidding. Do not sign a change.org petition thinking anything good will come of it, because nothing will happen, period. Anyway, if you listen to this on Apple Podcasts, thank you so much. Please rate and review the show. 5 stars preferred. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you didn't like. And please share the show with anyone you think would enjoy one of our episodes. We've done so many spoiler casts on so many things now, and we're branching out. We're doing movies. We're doing television shows that have to do with video games. So if you talk to your parents about that hit film from 2004, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, I know your mom's crazy to listen to a spoiler cast about that, so go check out our spoiler cast on that. Also, more appropriately, we did an episode on The Last of Us, the HBO show, so go listen to that if you watch that. And
tell your mom it's like a book club.
it is like a book club. This is the video game book club. People started bringing that up like a couple years ago as like this hot new thing. Reap the Spoils has been doing this for years, man. So if you
we
like
cornered
video
that
games,
market years ago.
yeah. So if you like video games and you like book clubs, well, boy, do I have a podcast for you. It's the one that you just spent the last 2+ hours listening to. All this talk about TV and movies and stuff pertaining to video games. Jason, what is our next episode on?
I guess the Fallout TV show.
The Fallout. Why do you seem so hesitant?
Because I'm a massive Fallout fan, and I have a feeling when I watch this show, I'm not going to be happy. It's just a feeling. I don't know.
Fantastic.
It really is good.
I haven't seen or heard anything about it, but we'll see.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope that we can reconvene in a couple weeks, and you are pleasantly surprised. I really, really hope for that, because it really was a good show. I'm going to be rewatching it in time for the episode. So if you haven't watched the Fallout show on Amazon Prime, go watch that in time to listen to our episode next month on it. Stay tuned for that, and as always, thanks for listening.
Delilah.
Do you guys never hear me when I say?
No, I think you
Oh.
say it so silently that like it doesn't come through your microphone.
My bad. Bye.
Bye, everybody. You can hear that.
That's funny.